can Windows Defender stop brand new ransomware that has never been seen before? And can controlled folder access, Windows Defender's ransomware protection system, be bypassed? Today, we're going to find out. To test this, I've created multiple novel pieces of ransomware specifically for this experiment. For obvious reasons, I can't show you the exact techniques I used, but I can show you where they sit on this scale of sophistication. Please note that as we move up this pyramid, techniques from the lower levels may be carried forward and stacked on top of one another. In other words, each stage may include everything that came before it. Also, just because a technique is listed here doesn't mean it was used in this experiment. This chart is simply intended to give a general idea of how I classify the sophistication of different techniques. Let's begin. First, we are testing Windows Defender without controlled folder access turned on. As we can see, the malware successfully enumerated a large number of files, encrypted them, and deleted the originals without Windows Defender intervening. Next, let's turn on controlled folder access and see how Defender responds. This setting stops suspicious programs from making modifications of directories which you select. It can, however, cause instability if not configured properly. At the end of the video, I will show you how to use this setting correctly. As you can see, Defender identified the process as suspicious and prevented it from making any folder modifications. However, it didn't identify the process as malware, so it was allowed to run. This highlights the benefit of enabling controlled folder access. Without signatures or other strong indicators, antivirus can struggle to distinguish between legitimate use of encryption APIs and malicious encryption performed by ransomware. As we move up the complexity scale, controlled folder access continues to block file modifications, even when the attack is carried out through legitimate, trusted processes. So before I start the final piece of ransomware here, I just want to show you real-time protection, controlled folder access, and tamper protection are all enabled on the endpoint. At this point, I am really throwing the kitchen sink at Defender. I managed to bypass controlled folder access, and the contents of the protected folders have been encrypted. But this really wasn't easy to do. You can see controlled folder access is still preventing the making of files in the protected folder, but with the scaffold of techniques in the malware, it can be bypassed. Now, after running this experiment, do I think Windows Defender and controlled folder access are completely useless? Not at all. In fact, if ransomware is your primary concern, I think they do a surprisingly good job. As you've seen throughout this video, controlled folder access was able to stop every sample until the very highest level of sophistication, where a significant amount of development effort and expertise was required to bypass it. Which antivirus vendor should I evaluate next? Leave a comment below and I'll pick one for a future video. Next, I'll be testing Windows Defender against a customized remote access Trojan. But before I go, if you're panicking, let me say this. The likelihood of a personal computer being infected by ransomware as sophisticated as this is pretty low. Attackers with the time, skill, and resources to develop malware like this are far more likely to target organizations that can afford to pay 6- or 7-figure ransoms than individual home users. Defender, on the other hand, is a different discussion. Throughout this experiment, it generally struggled to prevent the malware from executing in the first place, which is arguably the more important problem. Well-controlled folder access proved to be an effective last line of defense against ransomware. Ideally, you don't want the malware running on your system at all. For home users, I do recommend enabling controlled folder access, but I wouldn't apply it across your entire user profile. Instead, create a dedicated folder for the files you simply can't afford to lose: family photos, important documents, financial records, and anything else that's irreplaceable, and protect that folder instead. When I applied controlled folder access across my entire user profile, it became intrusive very quickly. Legitimate applications were constantly being blocked, Windows was repeatedly generating notifications, and everyday tasks started to feel sluggish because I was continually running into access restrictions. Restricting it to the folders that contain your most important data gives you the extra layer of ransomware protection without turning normal day-to-day use into a frustrating experience.